Jordan, how are you, man?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I want to thank you for taking out the time.
All right, all right. Yeah, man. How you doing?
I'm good. So, I guess first off, there was some news today, but we'll get to that in a second. Just to wake up a couple days later and kind of know that you are in the UFC, is there any words yet that you can kind of put to that emotion?
There's a lot of words, but the heaviest ones I feel are just, there's a little bit of shock, and but like just like inner recognition, dang, I'm here, but I belong here, and just how I did it makes me feel like I just took a longer road that made me it wasn't like I feel like the shock is now gone, and it's like fuck, all right, now it's like it's time to work.
Mm-hmm.
Like the feeling is like eager. I feel all that good. I feel all that mushy gushy stuff. But at the same time, I'm like, it's like I'm hungry right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm confident to have a strong appetite.
Absolutely, here to stay, and that strong appetite looks to be fed as in just a few weeks you got your first UFC debut.
Yeah, a 17-day notice. It's kind of like I feel like they're kind of rewarding me with this asking you shall receive type of mentality. I was just like, in the post-fight interview, well, I did one interview before, and they asked me questions that really got me thinking. So by the time they asked me after the fight, I already knew my answer. They asked me, what do you plan? I was like, you know what? Well, I heard Abu Dhabi was going on for 4 or 5 weeks. It'd be cool, They just jokingly, really, come on now. I don't even know if at this point before the fight, I don't know if I'm going to get the contract. Now after I get the contract, I was like, let's just follow up with this joke. I was like, hey man, I thought, I just might as well just throw out Abu Dhabi. And then literally less than 24 hours, my manager hits me up. He's like, you want to fight October 3rd? And I was like, wait a minute. That October 3rd, that mean Abu Dhabi? And he's like, yes, sir. I was like, are you kidding me? It's kind of like, it's like finally, I feel like I've been rejected for so long. I've been rejected by it's like the hot girl at school,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, she doesn't give you any time of day. And then finally, she's like, and anytime and the 2 times you give her the time of day, she's like, get out of my face, you're not good enough. And then second time enough, that's with judges denying me, with Dana denying me, and then finally when I give my shot. The 3rd time I do it, and now they just give me a fight right away on the biggest platform. It's the biggest thing. It's UFC Fight Island is just as big as UFC right now. Just with everything with the COVID and everything, it's just to be put on that. It's just mentally monumental.
Absolutely, and I love that analogy of the hot girl at school. I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
So
Sorry to finish the analogy. I'm sorry to cut you off.
You go ahead.
Then finally, the hot girl turns around and then she asks you on a date, and then she's like, oh, and now she wants to be your girlfriend. Like, whoa, this is too fast. You were chasing this girl all your life, and I was like, oh, this is too fast, But then it's at the end of the day, it's not too fast. It's exactly what you want.
Absolutely, that UFC is that hot girl. And like you just kind of spoke about, but if you get into more detail, it's just how does it has it hit you yet that while you're fighting on Fight Island that 5, 10, 15 years from now you kind of are going to do something that not many people have ever done. Fight during a pandemic. You've already done that, but now you're doing it in Abu Dhabi on this coveted UFC Fight Island that everyone's talking about.
I'm honored and I'm humbled, and it's just at the same time, it's just you know what? I have something to give. I have something to offer. Why else would they give me a shot? Even if it's the beginning, opening fight, the most least important fight on the card, it doesn't matter. You're on Fight Island, and it's just the heat of the moment is really felt, and I feel it's bring it, bring any degrees you can bring at me right now. I feel confident enough to just to handle it.
Absolutely, and you were on Dana White's Contender series before. You lost in a very, very close split decision. What were the differences besides the outcomes between preparing for the first fight and preparing for the second fight? What was on your mind in that second fight, knowing that this was your second time coming back?
I mean, besides the fact that I broke my knee 3 weeks before the first time I was supposed to, the reason why I didn't fight August 11th is because I broke my knee.
Mm-hmm.
So, apparently you can do that. I had a broken, a tendon detached from my patella, I believe, and it took a piece of bone with it, and that's called an avulsion fracture. So I dealt with that, and then the orthopedic surgeon what he was really concerned was about the possible tear in my LCL, MCL, ACL, LCL, and my meniscus.
Mm-hmm.
I cleared that screening and no tears, just a broken knee. We let that heal, and then and UFC was kind enough to push the fight back with Jordan Wright to October 6th, and then of course Jordan Wright gets pulled up, leave me opponentless for 2 weeks, and then they hit me up like, hey, have you been training? We have a shot for you in 13 days against Rodriguez. So by the time that fight comes, and to answer your original question, I felt like the pressure was just like, it was monumental. I was I'd say I was in the deepest valley before any training camp mentally, because it's a mental hill that you climb out of. This happens to any fight with any opponent. At first when you find out you about the fight, you feel nervous, scared, anxious. Your heart rates when you watch, you study, you bring up video of the guy who you're fighting, who you just said yes. Because of course you say yes to the contract. For me, I always say yes before I even look up the guy. Mm-hmm. And then I look up the guy, I'm like, holy shit, this big mother, wow, this huge guy, Brazilians, oh my gosh. And then I didn't even know, and so I didn't even know all his true athletes. I just know he's a big guy. I just watched all his MMA fights. I found out before going into that fight that he was an 8-time World Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champion, and I didn't even know he trained with Anderson Silva and Drake. Me and my coaches, we didn't find any of that. We just found out the videos and we just studied him. And then lo and behold, we was like, oh my gosh, this guy changed the deal. Vitor Belfort, and all these greats, and dang, he's really trained all those people since he was 8 years old. All right, this is gonna be a good. It's gonna be a good, a good fight. So this, I was down in the deepest valley, but I climbed up, and I'm telling you, man, I've never felt better mentally going into that fight. A day on Sunday, we actually bumped into each other on the bus to go get food together. I walked up and I started playing Mental Seeds. I shook his hand, making him think that I'm just a nice, polite guy. Mm-hmm. And I always hated that in high school. When I was about to face off my rival, he would always come up and shake my hand. He's just a nice, friendly guy. Like, hey, we're about to wrestle again. I'm like, dude, get out of my face. I'm about to go to war. And so I just kind of did that to him. I just got up, stood up, and just shook his hand and looked at my eyes, and then started playing the seeds in his corner's ear. And when we got back to the bus, I was just I don't know, the way it was just funny how I felt like it really rose up to the occasion, because I felt so weak at first. Like, oh man, I'm gonna be the smaller guy against this big guy with all these accolades. And then when I went there and I saw it, I was like, look at all those muscles. He's gonna freeze up. He ain't gonna last the round 3. He can't. He can't. And then I was kind of I sipped my own Kool-Aid, if you will, to kind of to get the build up that confidence. And then it was just funny. I was slipping hints to his corner, hey, I grew up wrestling. Mm-hmm. He's like, hey man, why didn't Dana take you the first time? Because of course me and Gregory's corner come back to the bus first, and I'm like, hey man, who are you? Are you a corner fighter? He's like, oh, I'm a corner. I was like, who are you cornering? He's like, Gregory. And I'm like, oh well, hey man, it's gonna be a good fight, man, because we both come from similar backgrounds. Mm-hmm. And he's like, hey man, why didn't he take you the first time? I was like, it's just I took on a 5-day notice, and I just out-wrestled with you. I just wrestled him down to the ground. There were some moments of stand-up, but, I didn't really prepare cardio-wise. And so I went in there with a game plan to take him down and make him feel as comfortable with his gas tank where I was off a 5-day camp notice. So then I told him, so all 5 days, I just, I still was able to finish him in the 3rd round. And then, but you know what? Dana just didn't like it. Mm-hmm. So I planted 2 seeds. I said, I'm a wrestler, so it's going to be a hard match to to bring this to the ground. I mean, we can go there, but really, I don't want you to get my arms tired trying to out wrestle you and then take away my slugging power, because I know he had to act like do that by this time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, so I planted that seed in his coach, like, hey man, let's just kind of like it's kind of like those things with two fighters, are like, hey man, let's just bang and get that fight of the night. You know, sometimes they make that agreement. I was kind of like planting that seed into his coach's head, like, man, let's just keep on our feet and let's just slug. You know, and then the other second seed, I was like, you know, even if you do happen to finish a small guy with your ass, it better be a phenomenal finish, because I finished the guy on a 5-day notice in the 3rd round, and Dana wasn't impressed. So, you know, your boy better come with some heat on the ground. So basically, I was all that going on mentally before this fight. I don't know if this is a long answer to your question. I felt like I said it did. Like, it was just like I was just doing stuff that I never thought I would do. I never planned on talking to his corner, but yeah, I was. Here I am, telling him to keep it up. Let's just slug it out and bang.
Absolutely, and that mental warfare definitely worked, as you got the huge win. So another thing that was talked about a lot, and I'm sure you've answered a lot of questions like this throughout your career, is being a diabetic and a UFC fighter.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can just give us some background on that, because I'm sure that as a fighter, it is not the easiest thing to do in the world.
No, it is not. My whole life, they've been telling me. So do you want me like what people have told me, or just like my personal experience of like what I have to go through to be a diabetic fighter in the UFC?
I'd love to hear both. What have doctors told you before that you can't do this, and what trials and tribulations have you gone through that have gotten you to this point?
Man, I'll say this from the beginning, that every doctor since I was 19 have always told me that I should not be fighting. And it's a bittersweet pill, because I just started fighting. I found out I was diabetic like a month after I started fighting. Mm-hmm. It was in my college. When they read that accolade when I was JUCO state champion, I wish they could put an asterisk. That was the year he found out he was diabetic. Mm-hmm. I found out I was diabetic mid wrestling season. For some reason, I weighed 178, and I couldn't cut the 174. And I didn't know why. People were coming up to me and asking me, like, dude, like, you look like you're on crack, man. Like, are you doing drugs? And I'm like, what, are you kidding me, man? And then so I looked so sick and pale. Then luckily a girl I was dating at the time told me, like, hey, man, you sound like a diabetic. Or, she was taking a medical assisting course at the time. Mm-hmm. And her grandpa was diabetic. So we go to the doctor, and they test me, and we find out I'm diabetic. That was mid-wrestling season. So then they tell me I'm the wrong type of diabetic. They say I'm type 2. Mm-hmm. It takes them a month. They give me the wrong medication. Mm-hmm. This is all during wrestling season. I'm still getting sicker and sicker, even though they find out I'm diabetic. Yeah. I'm losing weight. And then finally, they're like, hey, we think you're type 1. You just went through a honeymoon phase. No, they're just trying to cover their ass, because since I've been diagnosed, I've met people who have been really smart, and they've talked to me, like, they've just showed me a book about eating magnesium, and that so helps diabetics, and it's just like, and so these doctors don't really know that much. That's what I already found out from the beginning, that you don't trust these doctors, because they didn't even diagnose my diabetes correct in the first place. Mm-hmm. They said I was type 2 and I was type 1. And then I read one page in one book that my friend gave me. The very first sentence had more knowledge than all those doctors had ever told me. Mm-hmm. So then, so mind you, those are the same doctors who are telling me, like, hey, do you bleed? And then, they're going on solid facts. Like, I got this cut on my finger and this shit won't heal. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's just like, shit does take longer for me to heal. And sometimes I will damage easier, but I bruise, I'll color up sometimes, it's just something I deal with. But I found out this mid wrestling season, back to that story, and then this is back to the point of when I found out this wrestling season, I moved up to 187. Because now I'm on insulin. Now I'm gaining weight. Now I'm fatter than bigger. Now I'm getting bigger weight. Now I'm too fat. Mm-hmm. Now I'm walking around at 207, 210, cutting down to 197. and dealing with all this weight that I never had, and like, but you know, I was correctly diagnosed, and I was able to eat, and my body, I think, just really maintained. And then I ended up at the end of the season winning that JUCO state championship at 197.
Awesome.
Finding out I was diabetic, a type 1 diabetic, like no more than a month before that state title.
That's wild.
You know what I'm saying? So like, that's my start to my diabetic journey.
Mm-hmm.
And then meanwhile, I faced Max Griffin, who's a current UFC fighter. That's the first time I won a championship. I remember checking my blood sugar. My blood sugar was like 300 in the 300s for like a week. And if you don't know, that's really bad.
Yeah.
And that was when I faced Max Griffin, and we went 5 3-minute rounds for an amateur world title, and guess who brought back the belt? You know,
mm-hmm.
and I won that fight. So you know, from the beginning, I just kind of like had a chip on my shoulder when these doctors. And it was a pretty heavy, well-deserved chip to carry.
Absolutely.
And then now fast forward. Now at the end of the story, like also let's just say for the sake of the story, like I said before, no doctors ever said to me, you should continue fighting. And they've all had their question mark looks, and they've all like, you know, well, I want to do this extra test, or I want to make sure I want to tell you this extra thing before you go. You know, like, all right, whatever. So, I just got off the phone, Aaron, last night
mm-hmm.
with one of the leading endocrinologists in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Happens to be a diehard UFC fan.
Mm-hmm.
His son, his nephew knows every person on the roster. So
mm-hmm.
he just reached out to me like, dude, like, I get like all these pharmaceutical companies send me insulin. I would love to just give you these new insulins, and let's just say that these insulins are the I remember Mark from UFC, like he said that I take dog insulin, which is not true. It's just if your dog has diabetes and you don't have a prescription, you can go to Walmart because it's cheap, and you can use this for your dog. It's human insulin.
Yeah.
But it's like you can use it for dogs if your dog has diabetes, and so that's the type of insulin I use currently.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's because it's cheap. It's cheap. I have Kaiser, but it still costs like $100, like $200 or
absolutely,
or $70, like a vial. So it's just still crazy, absurd, costly money that I just don't need to spend.
Mm-hmm.
And so this doctor, he is inviting to send me these insulins for free, and new ones that are like, shoot, I got this new that just came out this year or recently, this new ultra long lasting insulin, and it's proven to help reduce lows, so that, and which is really good for me in training, because when I train, a lot of time it goes low.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been known to help produce less lows, and now I've fought through so much adversity where doctors have told me that I should not do this because it's gonna kill me in the end. But now I'm getting a doctor told me, or to the point where a doctor's giving me free insulin that I could never afford on my own.
Absolutely.
I'm getting the newest top of the line insulin, and he sent it to me all for free. I said, man, thank you so much for being a sponsor. He's like, what? A sponsor? Like, no. I'm reaching out because, dude, you inspire me. I deal with diabetics all the time, and it's just the way that you embrace it. I have people who just run from the fact that they're diabetics and say, no, I'm a person who has diabetes. And I see in all your interviews, you just say, no, I'm a diabetic, and then you faced it head on. I admire your drive and your personality. I just wanted to reach out. And I was like, well, you know what? Like, you can't take this away from me. You gotta let me say that you're my sponsor, or you can be like a beneficiary or whatever you want to call it. But I'm gonna tell the world that I was like, you can't take this from me. You can't take this feeling I have right now to the fact that I fought to till someone like you reached out to me and just want to, and doesn't even want me to say his name. Okay. What's his name? Is no, he didn't want to, but I was like, but you know, I want to shout out his name. He's like, dude, if you gave me a shout out, dude, I would be so just like, oh my god. So like, you know, Craig Perlman from New York, man. Okay. Thank you. Just like, I just want to thank you so much for solidifying that I really don't ever want to let go of this dream. And it's simply like, anyone I face, even if it's a bigger odds, just more comfortable. It's like, and you know, if I go out, I'm just know I'm going out on my shield. Like I'm going out. Like you're gonna have to punch me harder than that Brazilian did, to take me out.
Absolutely.
You know, and just remember that. You know what I'm saying? It's real. Like you're gonna do way more than that. You're gonna have to be maybe a 10-time world jiu-jitsu Brazilian champion.
Mm-hmm.
You have to maybe train with. Maybe you're gonna have to be. Oh, I trained with Anderson Silva in his prime. Maybe you have to fought Anderson Silva. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like you gotta have to. Like those are all things you have to tell yourself. Or like when that I feel like you have to tell yourself when you step in the cage with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I feel I have to tell myself that now.
Absolutely, and that is an insanely special story. That, you know, to go from doctors telling you don't do this to now a doctor giving you what you need to even improve yourself to another level is just special. And my last question for you is just and it goes hand in hand with this doctor is, you know, just being an inspiration for people with diabetes and even other, you know, situations where they're told they can't do something, and I'm sure that hearing from those people is even more just special than winning in the cage. Just hearing that you're someone's inspiration. How does that feel?
Feels amazing. I kind of I undershot the message. Well, let's just say I didn't undershoot the message before that fight. I had about 5 people that week with diabetes reaching out to me, but it's been in the tens or hundreds throughout the years that have reached out to me. Like, dude, like I have like now I have so many requests from diabetics. Like the very first request I opened up out of let's just say a shit ton was was a fellow type 1 with his story saying like how he like basically reading off word for word my story, and now like I'm gonna get back into it. I'm 30 years old. I feel like, no, he's like, I'm 29 years old, same age as me. He's like, and I was like, what? Like, this is kind of like a movie. Like, you can't, like, the first message I opened, this guy's like the same age as me. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's like, no, like, this is a lie. But it's just like, but then you open up the next one and the next one, and it's just like, dude, like, it's like, it's real.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what? I've been selling this cookie so long that I didn't even feel like they even like the flavor anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had to go in there with all this intention before this fight. I was like, you know what? Like, people know that now I'm trying to say I'm a bad motherfucker. That's my message. Yeah. That's the message I'm trying to say. You know, because I've been told that everyone's like, hey Dana, you know, you can make money on it. I'm a decent fighter, you know, but I have type 1 diabetes. I'm doing pretty good right now. But nah, he made me you know what? He made me have to step out. He made me have to step it up a level, and I did. Mm-hmm. And then everyone's back on the diabetes. I'm like, okay, so I'm just back right where I left off. Like the message I've been trying to say. Yeah. They're like, oh, so you guys really like want me to say this stuff? Like, okay, you know. So it's like, you know. It feels good. It feels like, you know, like it just feels good with this whole. I don't have to be mean. You know, I don't have to be bullshit. I don't have to, like, you know, Kobe Tomachine's act or whatever. Like you know, Conor McGregor's act. You know, as it turns out, there's these really great people that everyone claims that they are fine. It's like, yeah, they're really great off camera, but they really seem like they really are really good at being a dick on one. Yeah. You know, so it's just like, I don't have to do that. And it's just like, it was kind of nice.
Absolutely, man. Well, Jordan, I think we all look forward to seeing you continue to be an inspiration in the cage, and I congratulate you on your well-deserved UFC contract. Thank you very much for the time, man.
Hey, Joe, I appreciate it. And, thanks for the call and letting me ramble on.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it.